Hello boys and girls. Here's a review of how to find probability as a fraction. Write the probability as a fraction as well as using certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, and impossible to identify the chance of getting each outcome. Let's look at this circle. We notice that the colors are blue, purple, red, and orange. Let's read the word problem. A spinner contains 8 sections. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When flicking the spinner, what is the probability of the spinner landing on the following? Probability of landing on the color blue. When we write this as a fraction, we have two fractions. Looks like this. Part over whole, or this is also known as piece identifying over total amount. So the piece that we're identifying is blue. So let me put this in blue. How many blue sections are on the spinner? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the piece we're identifying, the blue. So the likelihood is 4 out of, what was the total? 8 sections. 4 out of 8. We need to simplify this and make it smaller. I know that 4 and 8 can be simplified because they're even numbers. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. I can simplify this even more by dividing by 2 again. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2, 1/2. There's a 1/2 chance I'm going to land on blue. So the likelihood is more likely because there are more blue spaces than there are any other color. Let me copy this page. There we go. We'll do a few on here, and then we'll do the rest on the other. One, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Oops. Okay. Sorry, boys and girls. Alright. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it is more likely since there are more blue. The probability of landing on the color red. Let's count. How many red sections are there? You're correct. 1. Out of how many? What's the total? Yes. Contains 8 sections. That's our total. For all of our fractions, our denominator is going to be 8. So 1 out of 8. What's the likelihood? Is it certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible? If you said less likely, you're correct. it's less likely that the spinner is going to land on red because there's only one red section. How about purple? How many purple pieces are there? If you said 2, you're correct. Out of how many? What's the total? Excellent, 8. We can simplify this because these are even numbers. Let's simplify. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 1/4. What is the likelihood of landing on purple? More likely, equally likely, less likely, certain, or impossible? If you said less likely, you're correct. It's less likely because there's less of the purple than the blue. I know that we have 2 less likely. That's okay. Sometimes a term for an outcome can be used more than once. And our last one, probability of landing on the color green. Count how many green sections there are. If you're laughing at me and saying there's 0, you're correct. That goes on the top. And what number goes as their denominator? 8. So what's the likelihood of landing on green? Certain, more likely, less likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible? If you said impossible, you're correct. Let's go into the next one. We have a few more questions. Oops. Okay, we need to identify the probability of landing on the color orange. How many colored orange sections are there? 1. Where does 1 go? On the top or the bottom? The piece or the total? Good job, the top. The piece. Out of how many? Oops. Yes, 8. What's the likelihood that your spinner's going to land on 8? If you said less likely, you're correct. Because again, there's only one section that's orange. Okay, the probability of landing on blue, red, purple, or orange. Well, let's see. Let's count the blues, the reds, the purple, and the orange. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a total of, let's make this, can we make this a rainbow? Let's try doing rainbow. Creative. I think this is as rainbow as we'll get. There's a total of, oh, way too big. Sorry. There's a total of 8. We have 4 blue. We have 1 red, 2 purple, and 1 orange. And that equals 8. Out of how many? 8. So what's the likelihood of landing on a blue, red, purple, or orange? If you said certain, you're correct. It is certain that you're going to land on either a blue, a red, a purple, or orange because they are the possible outcomes on this spinner. Now, the probability of landing on red or orange. Let's think back. What's the probability of landing on red? How many reds are there? 1 out of a total of 8. How many oranges are there? 1 out of a total of 8. What do you notice about these two fractions? Do they look the same? Do they look different? Or you have no clue? If you said they look the same, you're correct. They look like the exact same fraction, just in different colors. So, if there's the same amount of red and orange spaces, is it certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible that you will land on red or orange? If you said equally likely, you're correct, because here we're comparing two sections. It is equally likely that you will land on red or orange. Had I asked you probability of landing on purple, then orange, you know that there are 2 purples out of 8, and there is 1 orange out of 8. And notice the comparing word, than. So for this one, your answer would be more likely. It is more likely that you will land on purple than on orange, since there's 2/8 purples and only 1/8 orange. Next one. This is money. We all love getting money. Write the probability as a fraction, as well as using certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, and impossible to identify the chance of getting each outcome. Let's look at the spinner. This is kind of like Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune. These are different shows that you might have watched with your family that involve money. And the Price is Right, it's at the end. Or if you've gone to Dave and Buster's for lunch, there's this one huge circle with numbers that you push down the lever as hard as you can, and you try to land on the 50 or the 100 or 1,000 to get as many tickets as you can. Trying to think of something else that this might relate to you. That big spinner. I think that's it. Yep, that's the only 3 things I can think of. Okay, so let's begin. And again, we'll separate these. So it's on 2 pages, so it's easier to look at. Alright, here we go. Let's start on the first one. A spinner contains, this time, it is 6 sections. When flicking the spinner, what is the probability of the spinner landing on the following? What's the probability of getting a 2? Let's count the dollar sign, the $2. We see 1, 2, 3. So we write that as 3 over 6, because there's a total of 6 sections, and we only see the number 2 3 times. We can simplify this because we know 3 can go into 6 2 times. Oops, no, we can't simplify, sorry. Okay, so probability of landing on the number 2 is 3/6, or if we divide by 3, This is the same as saying 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2, 1/2. So what is the likelihood of getting $2? Is it certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible? If you said more likely, you're correct, because on the spinner, $2 appears the most, 3 times. How about the probability of getting a 3? How many 3s are there? Good. Where does that number go, on the top or the bottom? Correct, the top, because that's the piece. How many sections are on the spinner? Good, 6. Where does that go, if that's the total? If you said at the bottom, you're correct. We can simplify this because 2 can go into 6. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. 1/3. What are the likelihoods of landing on 10? Is it certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible? I know a lot of you have probably been saying certain because that's one of the outcomes. That is correct. So if you're going to write certain, also write more likely, less likely as well, so you can get credit for both. So this one, yes, it's certain because it's an outcome, but it's less likely because there's less chances of getting $10 than $2. So let's go on to the next one. Probability of getting $25. I know many of us wish that 25 was on here more. But as you just said, the answer is 1/6, because 25 is only seen one time. So what's the likelihood of getting landing on 25? If you said less likely, you are correct. It is less likely that you will land on 25. Alright, probability of getting $2, $10, or $25. How many $2 are there? 1, 2, 3. How many 10s are there? 1, 2. And how many 25s? 1. That's a total of 6. So the probability of getting $2, $10, or $25 is 6 out of 6. So we say, is that outcome certain, more likely, equally likely, less likely, or impossible? If you said certain, you're correct, because there's 3 outcomes that are on this spinner. How about the probability of getting $1 million? How many times do we see $1 million? Yes, unfortunately, it is 0. If I had $1 million out of a total of, you're correct, 6. So could we ever win $1 million on this show? Say if it was at Dave & Buster's Spinning the Wheel, or at Wheel of Fortune, or The Price is Right. Unfortunately, yes, you're correct. The answer is impossible. Unfortunately, it is impossible for us to win $1 million. Excellent job, boys and girls. If you need to review this again, feel free. And you can also create your own problems and continue practicing. Keep up the great work, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.